good enough that I really could have done accurate likenesses, so I considered doing fictional faces, and I started to draw out various faces, and one of the problems for me was, I mean, the girls were of different ethnic backgrounds, they had different skin colors. If I had shown faces, then you would have been able to see, you know, which ones were Asian, which ones were black, which ones were white, etc. And that felt like another piece of information that might be revealing, and I just wanted to protect their privacy as much as possible. So, yeah, I chose to. I felt like omitting information was preferable to manufacture or fictionalizing. I wanted to keep fictionalization to a minimum. There are some fictional elements in the book, but yeah, as little as possible.
For you both, actually, but Tracy, you both have these intimate stories that are partly your own, but they're also the privacy issues of the Johns or the escorts on your end. How did you address, you know, the fact that it wasn't just your story when in the work? I know you call it fiction.
You know, I am a novelist, and I feel like I'm pretty inconsiderate. I feel like I can do whatever I want. I mean, when I'm doing a journalistic piece, I'm very careful about protecting people's privacy. But as a novelist, I'm quite, I don't know if I would say I'm cavalier, but I guess I'm pretty arrogant, and I feel like everybody I meet is material, and if they don't like it, they don't have to hang out with me. And as for those who knew me before I evolved into a novelist, I think some of them may be annoyed, but I think mostly they should be flattered, no? And I really recreate these characters. I mean, they become my stuff.
I just had a question. When you wrote the book, was your intention to tell your story, or was it an intention to make an argument for or against?
Both, but probably the desire to fashion an argument, to create a polemic was that was the stronger impulse there.
Huh.
Back there in the back. Go ahead.
You have that one scene where the prostitute was asking you what you draw cartoons about, you know? It's kind of like that meta scene. I was wondering if any of the prostitutes knew that you were going to come out with a comic strip about them, or if you think any of them are going to read your work.
Only two. The last two, well, Denise is one of those two. And then the woman I saw immediately before Denise, I talked to her about, you know, the fact that I was about to do this book. And she just expressed interest. She was like, wow, that sounds like a really interesting book. She didn't say, am I going to be a character in it? But Denise did, and Denise was very concerned about her depiction, and so she actually said, put me in the book as little as possible, so that's why when you actually read the book, you'll see that there really isn't that much about her.
Yeah, when you were out there, you know, escorting, did like your friends and family know that you did that? And well, now that the book is out there and obviously they know, like, has anyone like in your life like thinks less of you now because of that?
Is that a question for me or for Tracy? Okay. Well, as I show, I was open with my close friends and with my close family, and then as I did the book, more and more people knew. Well, actually, there's that line about Joe. I got to tell someone, and Joe blabbed away to everyone. Yeah. So very soon, everyone in the comic book community knew.
Yeah, that's how I first heard about the Book of Whoring, I think, from Joe.
But I mean, Joe's the one who's the most opposed to it, and he's got to talk about it the most.
That's right.
I mean,
and actually,
got so many. He's an interesting guy, but I mean, he's got so much stuff going on there.
Yeah, actually, although he's in theory against it. He actually did. There was one time when he was in a porn theater and received a $5 blowjob from.
Gee, I'm so shocked to hear that.
I sometimes forget about that.
Yeah. But following up on that question for both of you, I mean, you are a former call girl, and you were just, I don't think you're a John anymore, but
Oh no, once a
with?
John, always a John.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
You can
No.
certainly call me a John. I'm
Yeah.
fine with being
Okay,
called
well,
that.
but it seems that both of you, the way it works is that you're sort of out of, you're one step removed from actually being in it, which almost maybe that helps some.
Helps in what way?
In other words, the question from the audience, well, first I'd ask you the same one. Did you feel comfortable with your friends and family reading?
I was always very out. In fact, I was considered a bit crazy in the sex industry by my coworkers for being so out. I was always telling my boyfriends and having these arguments about, this is the thing, you have to accept me as I am, blah, blah, blah. And my parents were pretty cool about it. I didn't tell them right away, but I told them after a few years when I felt established and when I felt like I could say, you know what, I'm safe, I know what I'm doing, you don't have to worry about me. So I didn't have that much paranoia, that much of a double life. I had more of a double life as a writer.
Yeah. But, some of the experiences that you imagined in your head and the scene that you read for us are experiences that many Johns have had, including the cop under the bed. There are a lot of, scary things that you didn't have to, go through. And it seemed that, almost like technology, he's using something called Turb, maybe you can talk about, which is almost a resource. So you start with Dan Savage, but then you quickly find other resources that really help make this work.
Yeah, I found a review website where Johns write reviews for each other about the prostitutes they see. And
Awful, I hate that.
Sorry.
It drives me crazy.
You were called crazy on one of the...
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, so that was helpful from my point of view.
But how do you know they're being accurate? These are just guys talking. You can't trust them.
Yeah, it's like any review system. You learned kind of through trial and error, like which Johns you felt you could trust.
These are commenters.
It's not like YouTube, Tracy. It's not.
They're commenters.
Sure.
Yeah, they're. Oh.
Let's go back. Go ahead.
I've noticed a difference in your other autobiographical work, about your youth in the framing, the composition that you chose to use. Can you talk a little bit about the choice you made for this book and how it compares with maybe your nonfiction work or other work?
Yeah, I went to the 8-panel a page, 4-tier panel structure, in large part to echo Joe's last book, because Joe used that panel arrangement in Spent. And I just loved how it looked there. I've always liked that panel arrangement. I'm a big Karl Barks fan, and Karl Barks used that. I just like that look of those long horizontal panels. And yeah, and I have, for a long time I've liked using panels that are always the same shape and size for various reasons. But yeah, it's mostly Joe.
But I would also say, echoing that, I'm thinking of the Playboy, which is one of the very earlier ones where you have this obsession with Playboy magazines that you keep taking out to a field and dumping them and buying them again and taking them back out. And it does seem too that we are talking about youth, but this one you're so active. It seems that both the Playboy and I Never Liked You Anyway, it's just you're a very passive character in this story. It's a very delightfully to its conclusion, you deciding to take charge.
Yeah, there is a different feel to it. Yeah, I'm going out and doing something in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
You talk about Spent. Something Joe Mann depicted you doing in a sequence in Spent. It kind of reminded me of what you were saying about romantic love. I was just wondering if you feel the two things are related, or if even depicted you accurately in this book. When he's going on and on about how he wants a girlfriend, and you two are sort of skeptical. At one point, you interrupt him and say, "Why do you even want a girlfriend anyway?" And he pointedly does not answer your question, even when you try to ask him again. And then it just trails off, and your question never goes answered. I'm wondering if that's an accurate depiction of something you would have said to him. It sort of seems to tie in with what you guys were saying about romantic love. I was wondering if you felt about that.
Yeah, the question is, it refers to a scene in Joe's last book where I asked Joe, why do you even want a girlfriend anyways? And I guess you're asking, was that an early reflection of my attitudes? And it probably was, although there's plenty in that book that I think is totally inaccurate as far as Joe's depiction of
Of you?
Me and Seth.
Oh, wait. And he thought you were kind of inaccurate.
No,
So-
he's happy with the book. He is. If you see his Facebook page, he's just talking about how great. He's very happy with it. I think he is. But we have time for one more question. So.
Yeah. Maybe this is a nosy question, so feel free to pass on it. But if you wanted to renegotiate your relationship with Denise at this point and stop paying, what would happen? Do you know? I mean, would it just cease to exist?
I don't want to stop paying. I would be afraid that if I stopped paying, then it would take the relationship too much into the territory of romantic love. I would not want that to happen. I'm afraid that it's more a fear that she would want me to stop paying. Although that's not actually a fear. I'm pretty sure she's not going to suggest that.
I think that the money-sex kind of connection is its own thing.
Right.
It's not, you can't replace that by not paying. It wouldn't be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, there would be a very different dynamic to the relationship, and I think it would if we did that, if that's what she wanted, and I doubt it is what she wants, but I think the relationship would quickly peter out after that.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
8.
Yes.
We have to wrap this up.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to Chester Brown, Tracy Quan, and Benjamin Walker. They're all going to stick around and sign books and answer any follow-up questions. Upcoming events are at strandbooks.com. Thank you all.